My wife cheated with her boss, and now she's trying to steal our $500, $0 inheritance. She secretly bought a house in her name, and I just found out she's lying about our savings during the divorce hearing. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. The day I found out my wife, Emily, was cheating on me with her boss, Mark, was the day my world started to crumble. It all started with little things I brushed off at first, thinking I was just overthinking or being paranoid. But then I noticed the texts and emails. The late nights she claimed were work emergencies suddenly seemed more like secret rendezvous. It was a Thursday afternoon when I decided to check her phone. I'd been suspicious for weeks. Her behavior had changed drastically. She was more dismissive, more defensive when I asked where she was or who she was with. I caught her deleting messages, hastily hiding her phone when I walked into the room. It was enough to make me suspicious, so I snuck a peek when she was in the shower. What I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages from Mark, flirty, suggestive, full of promises. Stuff like, "Can't wait to see you tonight, and you're the only one who makes me feel alive." I saw pictures, some of her in her office, some from hotels, all with that smirk she always puts on when she's hiding something. She told me she was working late that night, but I knew better. My gut said I was right and I needed to know the truth. I confronted her that night. I laid everything out, texts, emails, the photos. I was furious, trembling with rage and heartbreak. Emily's reaction was classic. She rolled her eyes, scoffed, and told me I was crazy imagining things. "You're just paranoid," she snapped. "Mark is just a friend and you're overreacting. You're insecure." She looked me dead in the eyes and lied right to my face, denying everything. She even accused me of being jealous, of projecting my insecurities onto her. But I wasn't stupid. I knew what I saw, and I knew her too well. The woman I married, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with her boss, someone she'd been claiming was just a mentor or friend. The betrayal cut deep. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. The worst part, she was trying to keep up the charade, pretending everything was fine, even as I sat there with her phone in my hand, evidence of her lies. I felt sick, betrayed, and more than anything, humiliated. I'd been blind for so long, and now I was trying to piece together what this all meant. I didn't want to believe it, but the signs were everywhere. Her secret trips, her disappearing acts, the way she suddenly stopped caring about our life together. I knew I had to do something, but I was overwhelmed. The affair wasn't just about the sex, although that hurt enough. What crushed me was the fact that she'd lied to my face, betrayed our vows, and now she was trying to steal our inheritance. She'd secretly bought a house in her name, a place I didn't even know about, and she was lying about our savings. During the divorce hearing, I found out she's been draining our joint account, funneling money into her own secret accounts, and she's got a plan to take everything from me, our $500, $0 inheritance, including the house, everything. That's when I realized this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about her trying to take everything I worked for. I felt sick thinking about losing everything, my money, my future, my dignity. I'd been generous, trusting her with everything, and now I see I was naive. I had no idea what she was capable of. The betrayal was so deep, I felt the ground shift beneath me. All I wanted was to confront her and get some answers, but I knew this was just the beginning. What scared me most was how she was so good at lying, spinning her stories, and acting like she was the victim. I had to get ahead of her, figure out what she was planning, and protect what was mine. This was just the start of a long, complicated mess. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to outsmart her, stop her from stealing everything, and find a way to reclaim my life. And that's exactly what I was going to do. After I confronted Emily that night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, trying to process everything I'd just seen and heard. Her denial, her lies, she was so convincing when she played the victim. She made me feel like I was losing my mind, like I was the one overreacting. But I knew better. I had proof, and I wasn't going to let her gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. The next morning, I started digging deeper. I needed to understand just how far she'd gone. I went through our bank statements, looking for anything suspicious. That's when I found it: hidden transfers, large deposits labeled as consulting fees, and withdrawals from our joint account that didn't match her story. She'd been funneling money into a separate account she'd set up in her name alone. I also discovered she'd been secretly communicating with a real estate agent, looking at houses online. What really set me off was the discovery of the house she'd bought in her own name. It was a modest place, but still worth a good chunk of our inheritance. I couldn't believe she'd been so brazen about it. She'd kept it hidden from me, lying about our savings and pretending everything was fine. I felt betrayed all over again. She'd been planning this for months. She'd been lying, cheating, and scheming right under my nose. I decided I needed to see her business files. I found her laptop password and snuck into her email account. That's when I saw the emails with her lawyer discussing how to hide assets and protect her interest. She was planning to claim she had no knowledge of the house or the money she'd taken. It was clear she was trying to pull a fast one during the divorce hearing, lying about our combined savings, claiming she had nothing in her name, and trying to make it look like I was the one hiding assets. The more I uncovered, the more furious I became. I'd trusted her, loved her, and built a life with her. And she was just using me, planning to walk away with everything we had: our inheritance, our house, and any future we might have had. I couldn't let that happen. I started preparing myself for a fight. I contacted a lawyer, showed him everything I'd found, and asked for advice. We discussed how to legally freeze her accounts, gather evidence, and ensure she couldn't pull any more stunts. Meanwhile, Emily kept acting like nothing was wrong. She was still bitchy, still lying, still pretending she was the victim. She'd throw tantrums when I questioned her, accuse me of being paranoid, and then go right back to her lies. She told me she was working late again, but I knew better. I saw her leaving the house in the middle of the night, her phone glued to her hand. I was starting to see her true colors: selfish, manipulative, and dangerous. At one point, I caught her in a blatant lie. She told me she never bought a house, that it was all a misunderstanding, but I had the paperwork. The deed was in her name. I showed her the documents, and her face went pale. She tried to spin some story about how it was just a temporary investment, but I wasn't buying it. I knew she'd been planning to move out and cut me off from the inheritance. I felt sick, angry, and helpless all at once. How did I not see this coming? How could I have trusted her? I thought we had a future, but she was just using me to get what she wanted: money, power, freedom from our marriage. I was furious at myself for being so naive, but I also knew I had to act fast. She was dangerous, and I couldn't let her get away with stealing everything I'd worked for. That day, I made a decision. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine. I wasn't going to let her walk away with our inheritance and the house she'd secretly bought. I was going to expose her lies, protect what's mine, and make sure she paid for her betrayal. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it yet, but I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. Everything had changed, and I had to start thinking like someone who was prepared for war. I just hope I can come out of this intact. I've got a lot to lose: my money, my future, my dignity. But I also have my resolve. She's not going to get away with this without a fight, and I'm ready for it. After I gathered all the evidence, I realized I needed to act fast. Emily was reckless, but she was also cunning. I couldn't just confront her outright and expect her to play fair. I had to be smart, strategic. I started by hiring a private investigator. I needed someone who could follow her, confirm her moves, and get more proof. I couldn't rely solely on emails and documents. I needed eyes on her to understand what she was planning next. The pie confirmed my suspicions. Emily was meeting with the real estate agent regularly. They were looking at properties, discussing prices, and she was even making offers on a house that wasn't in my name. She'd been lying about her whereabouts, claiming she was at work, but I had photos of her leaving that house in the dead of night. It was clear she was planning to move out, possibly before the divorce was finalized, to cut me off from any claim on her property or her secret bank accounts. Meanwhile, I kept digging into her financials. I hired a forensic accountant to track her hidden assets. What they found was shocking. She transferred hundreds of thousands of dollars into offshore accounts, and she'd been funneling money into her new house in secret. The more I learned, the more I realized how deep her plans went. She wasn't just cheating, she was systematically stealing everything from me. The day I got the full report from the accountant was a turning point. Emily had bought that house 6 weeks ago, in her name only. She'd also opened a new bank account, which she'd been using to hide her inheritance. I knew I had to act quickly to stop her from pulling any more tricks. I contacted my lawyer and we drafted a series of legal motions to freeze her assets and prevent her from transferring any more money or property. That night, I confronted her again. I showed her the evidence, photos, bank statements, the deed, and her face twisted into a mask of fury. She denied everything, again claiming I was paranoid, that I was trying to ruin her. But I wasn't having it anymore. I told her I knew about her plans, about the house, about the hidden money, and I was prepared to fight for my rights. That's when she started screaming, accusing me of trying to ruin her, calling me controlling and jealous. She even tried to turn it around, saying I was the one cheating and lying, that I was projecting my own guilt onto her. At that moment, I realized how deeply she'd lied, not just about the affair, but about everything. She'd been manipulating me for months, lying through her teeth, planning her escape while pretending everything was fine. I felt a mix of rage and sadness. How could I have been so blind? I'd given her everything, my trust, my love, my money, and she'd been plotting behind my back all along. The next day, I moved quickly. I filed for an emergency court hearing to freeze her assets and prevent her from selling or transferring the house. I also prepared to challenge her claims about our savings, because I knew she'd been lying during the divorce proceedings. I was furious that she was trying to pull a fast one, but I was ready to expose her lies in court. In the meantime, Emily was trying to spin her story. She told friends she was just trying to make a fresh start, that I was abusive and controlling, and that she was the victim. She was good at lying. But her stories didn't hold up under scrutiny. I knew I had to stay strong, stick to the facts, and let the law do the work. I'd been betrayed so badly, but I was not going to let her walk away with everything I'd built. I also started secretly recording her conversations. I wanted to catch her in more lies, get her to slip up. I knew she was planning to lie her way out of this, but I was prepared. Every time she opened her mouth, I'd be ready. I had to protect myself, my money, my future. I felt a strange sense of calm amidst the chaos, like I was finally taking control of the situation instead of being a victim of her schemes. Looking back, I realize how much this has changed me. I used to trust blindly, think love was enough. Now I see how dangerous betrayal can be, how ruthless some people are when they want everything. I've learned to be more cautious, more guarded. And I've learned that sometimes fighting for what's right means going to war. I don't want to lose what's mine, and I won't let her get away with this. Not without a fight. The legal battle moved faster than I expected. The court granted the emergency motion to freeze her assets, which was a huge relief, but I knew this was just the beginning. Emily was furious. She started playing the victim in front of everyone, claiming I was trying to ruin her, that I was jealous and paranoid, and that she deserved her new life. She had her lawyer spinning stories about how I was trying to control her, but I had the evidence. It was clear she was trying to manipulate the system, to hide her real plans. In the meantime, I kept digging. I hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her movements. It didn't take long before I got more proof of her intentions. She was meeting with contractors, inspecting the house she'd secretly bought, and even making arrangements to move out before the divorce was finalized. I overheard her on the phone talking about getting away and not letting him find out everything. That was the moment I realized she was planning to leave me high and dry, taking the inheritance, the house, and whatever else she could get her hands on. The emotional toll was brutal. Every day I felt like I was walking through a fog of betrayal and anger. I loved her, I really did, but she'd shattered that. I kept replaying all the moments when I trusted her, when I thought we had a future. Now, I was just trying to hold it together, trying to stay calm while the truth kept spilling out. I'd always thought I was a good man, honest, hardworking, And now I was wondering how I'd been so blind, how I'd missed all the signs. One night I decided to confront her directly. I told her I knew about the house, about the money she'd hidden, and about her plans to leave me. Her reaction was explosive. She called me crazy, possessive, and accused me of trying to control her life. She said I was just jealous because she was more successful and that I was insecure. But I had the evidence. I had the proof of her lies, her manipulations, her secret accounts. I pulled out the documents and laid them on the table. Her face went pale and she stammered, trying to deny everything. That's when I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. She'd become a stranger, a liar, someone capable of anything to get what she wanted. I was starting to see her true colors, greedy, selfish, and ruthless. I knew I had to protect myself and my assets, so I started preparing for the worst. I hired a forensic accountant to audit her finances more thoroughly. We found even more hidden accounts and transfers. She'd been planning this for months. I also started gathering witnesses, friends, colleagues, anyone who could testify to her behavior. I knew she'd try to spin the story, make it look like I was the bad guy, but I had the evidence to counter her lies. I wanted the truth out in the open, not just for the court, but for myself. I needed to see everything laid bare so I could finally start healing. Throughout all this chaos, Emily kept up her bitchy attitude. She'd scream at me, call me names, and accuse me of trying to ruin her life. She was good at turning things around, making herself look innocent. But I was done playing her game. Every lie, every manipulation only strengthened my resolve to fight for what's mine. I wasn't going to let her walk away with our inheritance, our house, or anything else. I had to be smarter, faster, and more determined than she was. One of the hardest moments was realizing how little she cared about us, about our marriage, our life together. All she cared about was the money and her freedom. She'd become obsessed with her new house, her new life, leaving everything behind, including me. It hurt more than I could say, but it also made me realize I had to be strong. I had to stand my ground, even if it meant losing her, because I knew the truth now and I knew what she was capable of. As I sit here writing this, I can't help but feel a strange mixture of anger, sadness, and relief. Anger at her betrayal, sadness that it's come to this, and relief that I finally know the truth. I've learned a hard lesson about trust, about people's true nature. And I'm starting to see that sometimes. Fighting for what's right means standing up against the people you once loved. I don't know how this story will end, but I do know I won't go down without a fight. My future depends on it. The court hearings were brutal. Emily's lawyer tried every trick in the book, claiming I was paranoid, that I had no proof, and that she was the victim here. She sat there with that smug look on her face, acting like she was innocent, like I was the one trying to ruin her. But I had the evidence, screenshots, bank statements, deeds, and I was ready to fight. I knew she was going to lie, spin stories, and do everything she could to get away with her scheme. That's why I hired a good lawyer, someone who knew how to play the game, and I made sure every detail was documented. When the hearing finally came, I presented everything. The deed to the house, the hidden bank accounts, the transfers, every piece of proof I'd collected. Emily's face went pale when the judge read out the evidence. She tried to deny everything, but the documents told the real story. She'd been planning this for months, buying the house in her name, draining our savings, lying about our joint assets. It was clear she'd been scheming to steal our inheritance, and the court wasn't having it. That day, the judge ordered a forensic audit of her accounts, froze her assets, and put a temporary restraining order on her selling or transferring the house. I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I could breathe a little easier. But I knew Emily wasn't going to take this lying down. She started playing dirty, making false accusations, claiming I was abusive and trying to destroy her reputation. She even told her friends I was crazy and possessive, trying to turn everyone against me. But I didn't care about her lies anymore. I knew the truth, and I had the evidence to back it up. I also started recording her phone calls, just in case she slipped up and said something incriminating. I wasn't about to let her manipulate the system or spin her web of lies. I was determined to see this through, to protect what's mine, and to make sure she didn't walk away with everything. Meanwhile, her behavior grew more erratic. She was frantic, trying to hide her tracks, but she was also more aggressive. She'd call me names, scream at me, accuse me of everything under the sun. Sometimes she'd cry, trying to guilt-trip me into backing down. But I'd had enough. I realized I couldn't keep playing her game. I had to stay calm, stay focused, and be ready for whatever she threw at me next. One night, she finally snapped. She showed up at my house unannounced, furious, calling me controlling and jealous. She accused me of trying to ruin her life, told me I had no right to interfere with her plans. She even threatened to take everything I had, my money, my future, everything. I stood my ground, told her I knew about her schemes, and that I was prepared to fight her in court. That moment was a turning point. I realized she was dangerous, and I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I also started planning my next move. I knew she'd try to appeal the court's decisions, so I worked with my lawyer on strategies to strengthen my case. I also started gathering more witnesses, people who could testify to her lies and manipulations. I wanted the truth out there for everyone to see what she was capable of. I was determined to hold her accountable and to protect what was rightfully mine, our inheritance, our house, and my dignity. Looking back, I see how much I've grown through this mess. I used to be trusting, naive even, but betrayal like this changes you. It teaches you to be more cautious, more guarded, but it also shows you who people really are. Emily was never the person I thought she was. She was selfish, manipulative, and ruthless. And now I see that I have to fight for myself, because no one else is going to do it for me. This isn't over yet, but I feel stronger than I did at the start. I know the truth, I have the evidence, and I'm prepared to see this through to the end. I don't want her to get away with stealing everything I've worked for. I want justice, and I want to move on. It's been a long, painful journey, but I finally understand what I need to do, and I will do it. For myself, for my future, and for the peace of mind I deserve. The final court date was a whirlwind. Emily's lawyer tried every tactic to delay, to spin her lies, but the evidence was overwhelming. I sat there, watching her try to maintain her composure, but I saw the cracks in her facade. She knew she was cornered. When the judge finally delivered the ruling, it was clear. Emily was ordered to return all the money she'd hidden, relinquish the deed to the house, and pay back every cent she'd drained from our joint accounts. The court also issued a permanent restraining order, preventing her from selling or transferring any property or assets related to our marriage. The feeling of relief was strange. It was like finally exhaling after holding my breath for months. But underneath it all, there was a deep well of hurt, hurt from the betrayal, from the lies, from feeling so utterly blind to who she really was. I had trusted her with everything, and she'd used that trust to manipulate and betray me. After the ruling, Emily's facade crumbled completely. She tried to lash out, scream, and threaten, but her words lost their power. I had my evidence, my lawyer, and the law on my side. It was over, or at least it felt like it was. I knew she'd never admit her guilt, but I also knew she'd be paying for her actions for a long time. In the aftermath, I spent weeks sorting through the mess. I had to rebuild my life from scratch, cancel bank accounts, change locks, and even sell the house she'd bought in her name. It was a brutal process, but it was necessary. I learned how fragile trust is, how people can hide their true selves behind a mask, and how important it is to protect what's yours. Looking back, I realize how much this ordeal changed me. I became more cautious, more aware. I learned to read between the lines, to trust my instincts, and to never ignore the little signs of deceit. I also learned that sometimes you have to fight dirty to get justice, and that the truth always comes out in the end, no matter how much someone tries to cover it up. Most of all, I learned that revenge isn't just about getting back what's lost. It's about reclaiming your dignity, standing up for yourself, and making sure the people who betray you pay a price. Emily thought she could walk away with everything, but she underestimated my resolve. I may have been blindsided, but I wasn't defeated. Now I'm slowly healing. I've started over, focusing on myself and my future. I don't trust easily anymore, but I do believe in justice. And I know that no matter how deep the betrayal, you can come out stronger on the other side if you're willing to fight for it. I've learned that lesson the hard way, but I'll carry it with me forever. The pain will fade, but the strength I gained from surviving this will stay. And that's what truly matters.